Good morning, everybody. I am the Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, and I serve at South Church in shared leadership with Kirsten Hunter, our Director of Lifespan Ministry, and in shared ministry with all of you. Sometimes people ask, so what exactly do you mean by shared ministry with all of you? Great question. In my view, at least today, it's not just about how we act on our mission statement, about growing spiritually, celebrating the worth of everyone, or acting on our faith in the larger community. It's more than just action. It's also about a ministry of presence, of noticing, connecting, and building relationship with one another. Last week, Lance Hellman said to me that one of the things that's beautiful about church is that there are all these people walking around with so many life experiences. Worlds upon worlds are all right here, sitting next to you. And sometimes we get a glimpse of someone's world through our relationships here. And what a privilege. Along those lines, today's poetry service is about more than being inspired by beautiful words. It's about connecting with people, the poets reading what they've written, or the poetry lovers reading what they love. It's about getting a glimpse into another's world and connecting with the beauty that is there. I'm glad to be here with all of you for our time together today, whether you are here in the sanctuary where it's nice and toasty, and there are, I believe, some fans in the back, or, this order of service doubles as a handy fan if there aren't any more. Oh, there are some left. And it's wonderful to be with all of you who are joining us online. Today, I'm grateful to be leading with Willow Young, our worship associate, who will be sharing a bit of her world in her opening words. With Lucas Kamon, our wonderful guest musician. Many thanks to Cathy Okhuysen for leading us in our invocation and the hymns. For Ben Abbott and Jen Leiden for making this service available beyond our walls. And to Jen D.B., who is going to be offering our Time for All Ages, after which our youngest will be invited to head outside for some crochet and some wonderful mural painting together. And after the service, you are all invited to head outside for refreshments and conversations, ideally with someone you do not know well. And you could perhaps ask them a question like this. Has a poem, a song, or a story ever opened your eyes to something new? Or, of course, you could always just talk to them about how hot it is today. Up to you. We have some announcements. If you want to check your order of service and read through them, they're right here, but I want to lift up a couple. I hope you'll join us for Connect, Imagine, Mobilize, Unity Hub Part 2, which is happening this Thursday downstairs, August 21st from 6 to 8 p.m., right here. We will gather at themed tables to share ideas, align efforts, and choose concrete next steps for justice and mutual care with other South Churchers and organizations and individuals all around the Seacoast. So you can see that in here. Please register so we know how many people we have coming. Yeah, I would say, there's a lot of sound that goes with that. A lot of sound affirmation. Our social justice associates have read Know Your Rights cards that they have shared with you on your way in. These are pocket-sized reminders of basic rights we all hold if approached by law enforcement or immigration officials, or how you can stand with someone who is at risk of being approached by an ICE official. Please feel free to take that with you or give an extra one to someone who might appreciate it, who you know. Also, today we have the Young Adult Emerging Task Force with us. Okay, Really great to have you here. I know some of you lent bedding so that they could stay with us, and we're so grateful for that. And your bedding is downstairs in the Carlson room if you want to pick that up. And just so glad to have you here, and so glad that you're doing the work that you're doing. Please note there are large print hymnals and listening devices in the back. Please silence your cell phone if you have one with you. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we gather on the traditional lands of the Abenaki and Pennacook peoples who cared for and cultivated relationship with this place for thousands of years before Europeans arrived. An arrival that brought deep loss and disruption, the effects of which are still felt today here and across this country. As we listen to each other's words today, let us remember that the land itself holds countless stories, stories of trauma and resilience, of beauty and change. May our time together honor both the people who tended this ground and the voices of the natural world around us, of water, wind, trees, creatures that continue to speak here. We now begin with the invocation.
Hope, hope, hope is a thing of feathers that perches in the soul and sings, sings, sings the tune without the words and never stops at all.
So our visitors today have generously offered to share with us a candle lighting. The mic's on, just go ahead and speak.
Oh, sounds good. Hi, everyone. Oh, wow. Good morning. So these words are brought by the Reverend Mary Harrington. It says, "We light this chalice for the challenges of freedom, the goal of equality, and the warmth of community. May all who gather here offer and find the blessings of acceptance, loving kindness, and a grateful heart."
Thank you very much. I invite everyone to please stand as you are willing and able and join us in the recitation of our mission statement. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Thank you. So I found some words this week, very small. It just said, "A poem is a song, a dehydrated thought. It's the essence of meaning, an idea just caught." And I like that, just a nice, simple little distinction. I unfortunately have to leave it uncredited because it's not really sure where it came from. It just sort of floated across my life the other day. And in approaching this week's topic, we're often asked a story, a changing moment, and like poetry. I kind of thought about that for a little while. I was like, well, I kind of played around with haikus, and school basically broke me for any interest in poetry, even though I enjoyed writing and trying to even create some. What did occur to me, though, was that actually I engage with it all the time in my life, and as many of us do through song and music, that it becomes an integrated part of who we are. And so I tried to reflect on that thought of, what's this like transformative story that's shifted? And I'll be honest, I was at a loss because I realized that's not how my life organizes, right? It's not like this crystalline moment that says, here is a moment of transformation. Yeah, I probably have a handful of them, but nothing around a song. And so I'm looking through my catalog, and I'm sure, like many of us, I've got thousands and thousands of pieces of music in my catalog that I've been collecting since my teens, and finding that there's pieces I hadn't heard in 30 years, right? So I started just like putting it all on random play. For a whole week, I've just been listening to my entire catalog of music, and I feel like I only scratched the surface. And what struck me was how some that I used to just live by really don't resonate anymore, or they only carry sort of a memory. I can remember in high school just constantly playing Pink Floyd's The Wall, or having Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms on my headphones all the time when I was mowing the yard or doing chores. And that if I wanted to feel a little bit of that sort of rile against the world, it was some U2 and The Streets Have No Name, or any number of ballads that tried to fit an emotion, and definitely lots of the teenage angst. I stumbled across an old high school entry in my senior yearbook along the lines of saying, I've been to Strawberry Fields and I know where all the lonely people are. So yeah, okay, guess I'd been listening to Eleanor Rigby that night. But I'd never quite had that moment of transformation. There's this wonderful story by Daryl McDaniels, who, if you're not familiar with the name, was one of the front men for the group Run DMC. And he talks about an experience while he was in the pits of depression, sharing a moment when he heard Sarah McLachlan's song, Angel. And for him, it was transformative. It was a song that pulled him out of the depths of depression, from the precipice of suicide, and became a part of his lived story and his lived experience, and one he continues to share. But as I've grown, not having those moments, I realized I've been completely looking over a piece, a playlist that I call My Captured Moments. And it's the playlist I put out there when I can't think of anything else to play. And it's unlike liked songs or, oh geez, I really had fun, because we always find that, like that read that's just enjoyable, but can come and go into our lives. These were the songs that at some moment they resonated in the context. In fact, I added a couple more just as I was listening through the catalog, because I'd realized, wow, something I'd heard dozens of times, hundreds of times in my youth was like, okay, that's fine. It was lovely. I think of something like Cyndi Lauper's True Color. Right, it's a lovely song. It calls for an invite to allowing people to come out of their shells, and I really enjoyed the song, found it beautiful. But as an adult in my 50s, with the lived experiences I've gone through, it had another resonance for me now. And when we're lucky, we can have those little shifts. I can remember hearing Tiny Dancer and always enjoying the song, right? And it wasn't until I was watching this movie that it completely reinvented it, because the context was different. The context actually brought that song to life in a new way. And that's what I started to realize, was that for so much of my life, the music that I listened to tried to reflect as a soundtrack in what I was experiencing and how I was living. And as I've gotten older, my music becomes an opportunity for me to move into a state of being that I want to bring to myself. Driving in this morning, it's upbeat. It's things that I could carry as an easy tune I didn't have to think about. When I'm going out for the evening, it's usually finding a way to connect with other people. And I'm always now listening to a lot more sapphic music than I did in the past, and finding independent singer-songwriters that carry not just the message that I find that can resonate with, but carry something that feels like it's coming from my own voice. Because then it no longer becomes a song. It feels like it becomes integrated and stitched into my being. And it becomes easy to do so and easy to consume, because that's no longer someone else's words. I'm being given this gift from a good piece, this sharing the words that I can't find on my own. And it allows me to express what I have yet to be able to surface in a world that so deserves for any of us to be able to be fully expressed. So I hope you enjoy all the words shared today. And we'll start with the ones that are in one of our books, with our opening hymn that I invite you all to stand as you're willing and able, and join us for hymn number 1007 in the small hymnal. There's a river flowing in my soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
All right. Anyone, children, teens, adults who would like to come up for a time for all ages, now is the time to come on up. Some of us are already up here. So today is a poetry day. It's also a day about connection and different ways of interacting with poetry. And so for our Time for All Ages, we're going to have a poem by someone named Paul Fleischman, who writes poems for two voices. So the poems that need to be read by two people at the same time. And I love that because it automatically means that you have to rely on someone else to share the poem. And so it's built-in interdependence, and it adds this whole other dimension to the poetry. And today, I invited two specific people to read the poem, our two nursery staff, Veda and Maisie, because today is their last day here in the nursery. They're both moving away to college, and so we won't see them until they come back in probably December. And so I thought it would be a good day to invite them to share the microphones. So this poem is called Cicadas. Does anybody know what a cicada is? No? When it's a hot summer day like today, when you're outside, do you ever hear a loud buzzing sound up high? Those are cicadas. They're an insect that lives underground for a number of years, depending on what kind they are, and then they come out at this time of year. And so that's what this poem is about, with Vida and Maisie.
Afternoon, mid-August, two cicadas singing,
air kiln hot, lead heavy,
5 cicadas humming, thunderheads northwestward, 12 cicadas buzzing,
up and down the street,
the mighty choirs assembling, shrill cicadas
droning in the elms,
3 years spent underground,
among the roots,
in darkness. Now they're breaking ground,
and climbing up the tree trunks,
splitting skins and singing,
jubilant cicadas,
rejoicing,
pouring out their
fervent praise,
for heat and light,
their hymn, sung to the sun, cicadas, whining,
cicadas whirring, cicadas pulsing,
chanting from the treetops, sending forth their booming, boisterous, joyful noise.
They did great. That is not easy to do because there are words that overlap, sometimes the same words, sometimes different words at the same time. So that was great. And now we're going to go outside and we're going to ask Max to lead the song that sings us out. Max, you ready?
Go now in peace.
Would you like this?
Go now in peace. Go. Hey, would you play the piano, please, for this? Thank you very much. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. I forget the rest of the words. Oh no. Oh no, I forgot my clipboard. Are you kidding me? Oh, excuse me. Oh, never mind. My mom's got it. Ha ha ha. Very funny. Ha ha ha. Oh. Bye bye.
Okay, no matter what else, we've all been upstaged. It's just like, own it, it's okay, we're in second. That's just how it happens now. But that's okay, because we know how to stand up and do the work, right? Whether it's the work in social justice, the work in maintaining community, the work in supporting people who feel more marginalized by our society, the work of supporting each other, and the work of maintaining this place, this space, our home, of our community and our spiritual lives. And so we come up and present and ask for an offering to be able to continue supporting the work of this community as well as the work this community extends into the world. And part of that for us is sharing our plate. So during the month of August, our collection will be shared with the Dover Children's Home. As chosen by the youth of South Church, DCH is a nonprofit residential treatment program committed to providing high-quality support and services to some of New Hampshire's most vulnerable and valuable youth and their families. And if you haven't brought your wallet or don't have any cash, don't worry. We've got a QR code, and you can use the Vanco app and pay online or through our website as well. But I now invite the ushers to come forward and take in today's offering. Thank you.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Let us gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of prayer or meditation. Spirit of life, in the midst of all the noise and news feeds, may we listen for the quiet truth beneath the din. As we witness those swept up from paths they knew, lives hanging in the balance, uncertainty heavy, while all who care are holding our breath. As we wait for what's next, bracing for more, on edge, we give thanks for those who stand witness at airports, at public meetings, through words on a page, for all those threatened by our current administration. We give thanks for those who speak and act so that due process means what it says, for those who remember law is meant to protect, not to harm. We give thanks for all who labor for justice, here and abroad, who don't turn away, who are willing to see and willing to do. And still, Spirit of life, we know how easily fear can close us in. In this polarized time, suspicion hardens our hearts against one another. Please remind us that there is light within each person, that no border can contain, no opinion can erase. May the light in me see the light in you. May that light awaken compassion and courage. May compassion with courage lead us to act for the justice we all long for. And when the light feels hard to find, may the glimmer we notice in even just one face help us search for it in another, until more and more, even in the deepest shadows, we begin to see. I would now like to invite those who would like to light a candle to come forward through the center aisle, down around the sides. If you have a candle you want to light for a joy or a sorrow that you carry inside today, or if you want to sit in reflection or meditation while the music plays, please feel free to do that also. Music will now begin. Let us hold all of the joys and sorrows that were felt and experienced in our prayer time together. Let us hold them all in the depth and warmth of this space as we take our hearts and open it into this community and then out into the world. I have never particularly considered myself a poetry person, so I suppose that it's a little ironic that I've been doing a poetry service every year. On the other hand, maybe that's why I do it, to make space for anyone else who also doesn't feel so sure when it comes to poetry, who, like me, doesn't always feel like you grasp every nuance. And maybe I do it because there are so many things in our world that are hard to grasp, especially right now. So many things that are contradictory, confusing, overwhelming. And poetry offers us a gentler practice. It says, you don't have to understand everything to be changed by something. Marcel Proust once wrote that the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Which reminds me that it matters less what is in front of us and more how we choose to attend to it. Poetry is one way we practice that kind of attention. We let the words work on us, even if we don't pin down their meaning. Today, each of our poets will offer a little bit of framing, share their poem, and I'll share a few words to draw a gentle through line from one to the next. And if you're someone who likes to read the words that you're listening to, there is a QR code and a link in your order of service that you could check on if you want to, click on if you want to see the poems, and you can certainly look at them afterwards if you like. Cathy, please begin.
April 8, 2024. I sat with a couple of friends in a Portsmouth backyard waiting for the total solar eclipse. The sky darkened as if a storm or dusk was gently moving in. There was a small breeze. We waited for darkness. It did not come. When the mid-afternoon sun returned, we went inside. I didn't realize until I talked with people who had been on the path of totality that sometimes with some things, despite habit and self-perception, it may be better not to settle for less than all. And with that thought in mind, I wrote this poem. They say the abrupt midday night made some cry, others whoop with joy. They say, even though they knew it was coming, it was still a surprise, still moving. I would have liked to cry or whoop or stand in silent awe. I would have embraced the wavy shadows, the sudden hush, the cool air. I would have loved to be moved. But I chose instead to stay on the shoulder of the path to totality, to settle for 96%. I always have.
Sometimes, with some things, as Cathy suggests, it may be better not to settle. It made me wonder what draws out your whoops or tears. What draws you off the shoulder of life? What makes you feel whole? Maybe the first step is just slowing down, a being here, attending to what is.
Hello, everybody. So I marvel at a poet's ability to write. I am not a poet. It is one thing I'd like to be when I'm reincarnated, though. The cadence of poems is like a good song, and for those who don't like Bob Dylan's voice, you only need to read his words to know that he is a better poet than a singer. My friend Dave Drucker, who I dearly miss, was a wonderful poet. He graced me with several poems, including one about my favorite team, the Red Sox. So poetry has always been a part of my life, as it is for some of my closest friends. So imagine a dark, cold night. We are sitting in the warmth of friend's house enjoying dinner. It's a tradition with this group of friends to do something after dinner. One thing we've done is play a game. We created a list of our top 100 songs, and we've read poetry. This is where I discovered Billy Collins. We passed around one of his books, each reading a poem. The room lit up with laughter and sometimes with tears. Today, I'd like to read you a poem by Billy Collins. Maybe if you close your eyes, you can imagine sitting in your friend's kitchen on a cold winter night sharing a poem. The title of this poem is The Chairs That No One Sits In. You see them on porches and on lawns, down by the lakeside, usually arranged in pairs, implying a couple, who might sit there and look out at the water or the big shade trees. The trouble is, you never see anyone sitting in those forlorn chairs, though at one time it must have seemed a good place to stop and do nothing for a while. Sometimes there's a little table between the chairs where no one is resting a glass or placing a book face down. It might be none of my business, but it might be a good idea one day for everyone who placed those vacant chairs on a veranda or a dock to sit in them for the sake of remembering whatever it was they thought deserved to be viewed from two chairs, side by side, with a table in between. The clouds are high and massive that day. The woman looks up from her book. The man takes a sip of his drink. Then there's nothing but the sound of their looking, the lapping of the lake water, and a call of one bird, then another, cries of joy or warning. It passes the time to wonder which.
I love that vision. The clouds high and massive on that day as the pair sits listening to cries of joy or warning. That image of attentiveness to life's broad span is also in our next poem, where Anne Mackin's words evoke a stillness that goes deep.
I think of this poem as a little medicinal-sized bottle of last summer. When I let myself sit still on a summer day and take in the gently moving tree canopy and the flickering light on the leaves, I gradually feel a sense of hypnotic relaxation, connection to all of nature, to the people who have felt this throughout history and prehistory, and to what I experience as the divine creative force of the universe. So I'm going to read you a poem that came from one of those days and seems to share a title with the one the young people read. So, late afternoon, September. After a car crosses the bridge upstream, a faint philharmonic chirping of birds and insects claims the silence and golden light. That radiance anoints the river's surface, shimmering in the breeze that parts the marsh grass and moves under the heron's wings. And every movement of every moment, the light moves up the trees while the sun sinks. And I understand the turning of this scene, of my place on the earth, away from the slanting light, from the sun that gives it, from the adieu of the dying breeze and cooling air. The river drains after the moon that rises elsewhere now, as the cosmos remakes every sight and renders leaves as fluttering light and the flutter of longing. And the silence is wonder deep, the seen and unseen touch everywhere, and I cannot tell where God ends or I begin.
Attending to what is, with a silence that is wonder deep. Where Anne's poem holds us in a wonder of the natural world, Lee Timmins invites us toward a human one, where birth and memory, love and loss are all part of the story.
I was thinking about our five senses and how they tend to bring us into the present. I touch you, I feel, but they can also take us into the future. I have a sense of a truck up ahead. I can smell the fumes. If I get ahead of the truck, I won't be in its event horizon. But they can also, and as many of us have experienced, bring us into the past. And so I share this poem with you with that in mind. Cradle. Coaxed by pulsing muscles, hidden muffled voices, born mammal, awash in milk and blood, flood of floods, pressed into the world desperately naked, lowing for her breast. Cradled there, I rest. 6 decades later, a solitary afternoon, an antique shop's dusty corners, its vintage hoardings, my savory surprise, a disconnected rotary phone. I finger the coil. I cradle its hefty black handle to my ear, imagining that tone, those long, unused, still remembered 10 numerals. I dial, person to person. I am calling home.
While Alice holds the ache of memory and that longing to call home, Rebecca Dawson Webb points us toward another kind of home, one that poetry itself can open, a presence we can carry with us anywhere.
Good morning. I grew up with my dad and uncle quoting things at me, bits of literature and poetry. They were burrs in the mind from their boarding school days in pre-1941 Britain. Years later, in suburban Connecticut, my dad had my siblings and me memorize a poem to earn our allowance. Still, despite this, and my majoring in English and becoming a high school English teacher, I was intimidated by poetry. That is, until for my 30th birthday, I decided to make friends with it. My approach was to treat reading poetry like sipping scotch. My recent befriending technique has been a return to memorization, a tribute to my dad, who's been gone for many years now. I am currently up to 17 poems, which flatters my sense at 60 years old that my memory still works. Memorizing poems has been a way to direct my too often hijacked attention, a means to settle the mind. And it has turned these poems into portable companions. Poems speak to the moment, but are not just of the moment. They have staying power and real nourishment, a counterbalance to our fractured and anxious present. They serve as ballast for hard times. To learn them, I've had to attend. And this is something we all could do better and more often. Attend to each other and the world. Here is a poem by Lucille Clifton that has been, for me, like a literary rosary, blessing the boats. May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that.
Attending to each other and the world as we sail through this to that, praying that a tide may carry us beyond the face of fear in our fractured, anxious present. What if there is a totality that beckons us as we step off the shoulder? What if there is a fullness we can take in when we slow down and sit by a lake, hearing cries of joy and warning? What happens for us when we let ourselves be wonder deep in nature? Or what may we find? Surprise in the corner of a dusty antique store when we call the truest home we've ever known? Where else can we find portable companions that settle the mind? I'm so grateful for all the sharing here today and for all the poets, composers, artists, and art lovers of every kind who bring a light, shine a light, are a light in a world full of shadow. I want to close with a short story from Thomas Merton, the monk and writer who spent his life exploring how to live with contemplative eyes. He once reflected that even without leaving home, pilgrimage was possible if he approached ordinary life with a spirit of reverence. In Louisville, he writes, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. And if only everybody could realize it. But it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. If only we could see each other that way all the time, there would be no more war, no more hatred, no more cruelty, no more greed. But this cannot be seen, only believed and understood by a peculiar gift. This is the vision we practice here, glimpsing worlds in one another, glimpsing the divine, shining like the sun, carrying light into the shadows of our worlds. And so we close with a hymn that carries us, even through tumult and strife, into that deeper song that rings in our souls. How can I keep from singing? It's number 108. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Lamentation.
So extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of commitment that we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.
The true voyage of discovery is not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. May we leave this place with such vision, awake to the light that surrounds us and the light that abides within us. May the light in me see the light in you. Namaste. Amen. Go in peace.